Good evening and welcome to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, the site of tonight's Steel Graphics and Design Series race number 10 on the season. Your Speed Racing Network President Jonathan Byer with you here to bring you 125 laps this evening. This is the first race of the playoffs, or the chase as you will, for the Steel Graphics and Design Series. Those 10 drivers who qualified include Max Service, Dan Park, Lane Doyle, David Davis, Daniel Bodler, Robert Richardson, Joe Ruggles Jr., Bo Brady, Kyle Johnson, and Troy Techmeyer. All of those appear to be here this evening, I think, except for Troy Techmeyer. Don't see him here. There's also one other of those drivers missing because Matthew Cornell fills out the 9 drivers you see in attendance this evening. Starting grids on your screen. Max Service will lead them to green, followed by Bo Brady, Kyle Johnson, Daniel Bodler, Lane Doyle, Robert Richard, Matthew Cornell, David Davis, and Mr. Dan Park. Thank you for joining us this evening here on Speed Racing Network. We greatly appreciate your viewership. I said 125 laps is what we have here tonight. Only 2 races will remain after tonight's race this season. And the future plans on the network are still uncertain. We'll keep everybody up to date on the happenings of that on our social media accounts going forward. Be a pretty quick start here. Little 9-car field here, so it should be pretty lean green race. 125 laps here at Charlotte. We'll go by rather quickly if we end up going that route this evening. A sunset race on tap tonight. You can see kind of that hazy orange glow over the racetrack. That'll quickly shade into the night sky. The lights will come on, and we will have at least one driver who's going to be closer to the championship than the rest. It is total points in the last 3 races that determine which one of those 10 drivers I named off the top will earn the championship. Field's in the hands of Max Service, and the green flag is out from Charlotte. Max Service jumps out to a quick lead over Kyle Johnson and Bo Brady, 8 and 88, but it looks like they now have that sorted out. The battle looks like it's brewing just behind them. Lane Doyle, Daniel Bodler, and on the backside of the top 5 here, and just back there we got some guys already running multiple lines. This little grouping: Robert Richardson, David Davis, Matthew Cornell. You'll kind of see maybe these drivers a little packed up early in the run. They'll slowly start to separate as tire wear begins to take over. Tire wear is something that makes a pretty good difference here at Charlotte, a slightly abrasive racing surface. One thing you'll also notice, if you've ever driven this track on the surface, we got a wreck in the back. Hard in the outside wall. That's the 22 of Matthew Cornell. I think it was Robert Richardson we saw sideways first in that yellow machine. Let's get back and take a look here. See if we can find out what happened. The 5 there of Robert Richardson, the yellow car on the outside. Oh, he just gets loose. Gets loose, gets the fence right in front of the 22. And I can't tell who that was in the back. I think that was Daniel Park in the back, who, yeah, right there in the 7. Watch him get through this. Oh my goodness. He might have got the back of the 22, and that's probably what got him in the outside wall, but it could have been a whole lot worse. Let's see if we can get this from Mr. Park's point of view. This should be an interesting one. 5 just gets loose there. Yeah. He did just get the back of the 22. I don't think it's going to hurt the 7 car too much, but a little damage there on the left front for Mr. Park. So, these two vehicles find themselves on pit lane for repairs. Looks like the 11 of David Davis will come down. Looks like Mr. Dan Park will come down and get that left front damage repaired. Everybody else stays on the racing surface. Max Service, he's read every lap so far tonight. We're going to take this opportunity, go a quick break in, hear from some of our partners here at Speed Racing Network. Back here at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, currently under caution after the Robert Richardson Matthew Cornell crash happened first 10 laps of this race. So far working lap number 5 of 125, so still a long way to go. The 5 of Robert Richardson has now retired from the event, so he will get credit for the 9th place finish tonight. The rest of the field is doubled up behind Max Service, who's led every lap thus far in this event. 22, who we just discussed was in that incident as well, he remains on the pit lane. Currently a couple laps down. Looks like he'll try to get what he can fixed out of that car. Might try to stay back in it. Not a championship runner, so not as much to fight for as the rest of these guys out here. The last car involved in that last incident, the 7 of Dan Park, has rejoined the back end of the field. In 7th after some extended pit road stays. Looks like he's got that thing fixed up, so at least 7 cars now. They're all going to do battle for about the next 120 laps and see who comes home victorious. Remember, it's total points over the last 3 races that determine a champion. All the drivers you see right here currently on the racetrack are all eligible for that. They've all been reset to 1,000 points for this race. So every point matters. Leading lap matters. No incident points matter, so a lot for these guys to fight for tonight. The green flag is back out. Lap 7 of 125. Bo Brady now thrusts his hat out into what it means to lead this race tonight. Takes the lead from Max Service after that restart. And those two battling 1 and 2, and then kind of groups of 2 battles all the way through the field, and then that just leaves Mr. Dan Park kind of hanging out back there by himself. We were talking about right before that caution, if you've ever driven this track on the service, you realize 2 ends of the racetrack completely different. You might see that as the run goes on, the lines at which these drivers choose to go through the corners will change. And then the temperature will change too when the sun goes down. And you're on the virtual racing surface, and on the screen you can see the glare of those camera angles that swoop across the corner that that sun puts on it. Let me tell you, from inside the race car, depending on your graphic settings, of course, it can be kind of blinding at times. NASCAR weekends all the time about drivers fighting the sun at certain tracks and certain times of the day. Here on the service, you don't really fight the sun. It's more of the reflection off the racetrack, especially if you're running an HDR graphic setting. So some of those guys are there. They might be flying blind for the current moment. The pack now is grouped back up. The top 6 all kind of nose to tail here, and the 7 lagging just back off this group. And all 7 drivers we see out here currently on the racetrack have had flashes of speed and brilliance this year. Most of them race winners. I know a smaller field. Kyle's getting a little loose down the bottom. He gathers it back up. Maybe a smaller field than what we'd want in a race, especially this late in the season, or for the most part any race during the season. But a good group of drivers nonetheless that are going to probably give us some good action to talk about here in a little bit. But so far, playing it nice and calm and conservative. We've seen a few moments where drivers getting a little bit loose. We saw it there a second ago with the 88. That's also what caused our first incident, was the 5 car getting loose in the middle of the corner, ricocheting off the 11, and then ultimately getting T-boned by the 22. So that's now taken those 2 drivers officially out of the race. That leaves the 7 still going. The damage on the 11 seems to not be hurting him too bad. He's running up in the 5th spot right now. That's David Davis. The other driver involved there, Dan Park. Can't tell if he's just being conservative or maybe that damage is hurting him back there in 7th place. He's now fallen over 4 seconds behind Bo Brady. Currently paces the field around Charlotte. Well, we're going to step away for a few minutes. We're going to let you hear the sights and sounds of these NASCAR O'Reilly Series cars around Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be right back. Yellow flag back out here from Charlotte, and that was the result of what you may have seen live in the corner of your screen. Bo Brady and Lane Doyle getting together, getting into turn 3, and that ended up costing them both, unfortunately. Brady ends up probably getting the worst for wear, scuffing up the left side of that car pretty good. And the tail, I think it's as bad there for Mr. Lane. Doyle will get you one more look at it here. Kind of trying to shove it 3 wide in the corner, and a disagreement over the space available there on the bottom, and ends up sending both those drivers into the wall, and ultimately looks like costing the 8 a little bit more than the others. Yeah, I'm expected to step away and give you the sights and sounds and kind of let that last a few minutes, but it be turned into more action here. I don't think that'll take either driver out of the race. I think they'll both be able to continue. They might need a little bit of time on pit road this time by for some repairs. Well, this is going to bring everybody down the pit lane. Each driver this evening, 3 sets of tires available to them in the pits. So if you include the set they started on, that would be 4 sets of fresh rubbers. It'll be kind of strategic on when you use them. And here about 20 laps in, though, would maybe not be the worst time. Be a couple cautions early. There's a reasonable expectation that these guys could believe that this race might start to take on a little bit more of a green flag feel down the stretch. So just in case that's the case, we're going to take one more second here, hear from a couple more of our partners here at the BBC.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Back at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, everybody's completed their pit stops and gotten off pit road incident-free. Couple drivers spending a few extra moments there, repairing some damage. The 47 and the 8 both doing that. They'll rejoin the back side of the top 4 you currently see doubled up already. Looks like the 7 of Dan Park spent some extended time on pit road once again. Maybe a little bit of remnants from that first incident as far as damage. Max Service will once again be the leader. Daniel Bodler now will start beside him in position number 2. David Davis and Kyle Johnson will make up the second row as we get set to restart. Working lap number 21 of 125. So just over 100 laps remaining in this one. See if we can settle on in here. Green flag is back out here at Charlotte. Max Service firmly now back in the lead and in control, much like he was early in this race. Daniel Bodler will fall closely in his footsteps. Kyle Johnson rounding out the top three. Those kind of broken away a little bit. And you see Bo Brady in the 8 and David Davis here in the 11. Lane Doyle has fallen back a little bit, and I was just looking back a second ago to see if something happened. We saw some smoke just in front of him, and the 7 got loose, and the 7 had to check up to avoid him, but they both carry on. So a close call there for the 47. He avoids big trouble. And Park got loose there, regathered it without hitting anything, so he's okay. And while we were looking at that pass for the lead, Daniel Bodler has taken point over Max Service with 100 laps remaining. First time we've seen the driver of the number 6 out front this evening. See how fierce they battle now, or if they kind of want to settle in a little bit and let this race ride for a little bit. The choppiness in the start, it definitely makes this 125 laps feel like it's going to kind of leg out a little bit, but we get a nice groove here down the stretch. Start picking off a bunch of 30 to 31 second lap times. We'll be staring down the stretch of the checkered flag rather shortly. Battle's a little hotter back here between the 11 and the 8. David Davis and Bo Brady kind of almost leaning on each other getting over there. Looks like they have it sorted out for the time being. Two groups of cars now kind of separated on the racetrack. You have the top two here, Daniel Bodler, Max Service fighting it out for the point, and then you got a little group back here, Kyle Johnson, Bo Brady, David Davis fighting out for the remainder of what's going on. And then in the back, the 7 has now gotten back by the 47. Is clearly off the pace significantly due to damage, just over a second slower than what the leaders are running currently in the number 7. I want to keep our eyes on this battle up front, and you know, I think these two might be content with maybe getting a little bit more space built up and maybe saving the battle for a little bit later. Kind of open up that gap a little bit that they have on third on back. Especially if we get into a long green flag run style race, you know, you can build a little gap there, and it's just going to be hard for those guys behind them to make it up without one of those guys making a mistake. Especially when it comes to green flag pit stops. This is a pit road that's not insanely difficult to get on and off of under green flag conditions, but you just got to make sure you're paying attention, getting the load down in time to avoid any penalties. Green flag penalties on pit road ultimately detrimental in most cases, so avoiding those would be a really good idea for these guys. I've been noticing too, when watching the 81 and the 6 make some laps here, and you just see the difference in lines in which they're running. Bodler in the 6 entering a little higher into the corner, running a little bit of the middle, and then cutting it down towards the exit. And then the opposite, you see the 81 enters low and kind of just paints that white and blue line all the way around the bottom of the corner. And you know, this is one of those tracks where, you know, that painted line is more on the surface than it is on the apron, so you know, that's still banked area right there, and your left side tire is just down on that, maybe a little bit of extra turn on that paint. What I used to hear drivers talk about when the old Atlanta surface was still a thing, how you get right on that white line there on the bottom of those corners and almost use it to help the car turn. I think Kevin Harvick made that more famous and even coined the line the Harvicking, just going around the bottom, like what you see the 81 doing right now, and using that line and that paint for a little extra grip to get that car turned. And hopefully like the attitude and the overall raceability that you see in the 81. You see it right there. He's got the left side all the way down on that paint, almost all the way down on that apron. Gotta be careful not to clip it, but there's definitely a little bit of gains to be had when you get a little closer. while we're talking about these two drivers, the third on back battle is kind of separated out to where now it's more of the 11 and the 88 doing battle, but both of them have actually closed the gap on 1 and 2, running slightly better lap times, about 0.2 of a lap faster than those that we currently have the camera on. So that's a little interesting. Fastest car on the racetrack right now, as they come by this time. Actually, the last times up there on the board. Last time by, it looks like Kyle Johnson, the 88, fastest car on the racetrack with a 30.78. So just a little pinch faster than the front two. Not a huge difference in time, so that's going to prevent any large swings of track position at the moment. But as the run develops, as the tires continue to degrade, you're saving a little bit now. It might become a lot clearer. So we'll leave the last lap times up on the screen. As you can see, most of the field on the camera at a given time, which is going to give you an idea of gaps. We also have our track map up in the top right-hand corner of the screen, right below the Premier Racing Setups logo. So kind of gives you an idea on spacing. So we'll leave those last lap times up to get a better visual or take on currently who's got the best speed in a race car. Just the last lap turn, the fastest car on the racetrack actually swings a little bit towards the direction of the number 11 of David Davis, just the slimmest of margin. Both third and fourth, a little bit faster than first and second. So the fascinating, one of the more fascinating metrics to watch while watching a race is that current lap times being run, who's fastest on the racetrack right now, who's not, and a lot of times maybe it's not the leader. Somebody coming out fresh tires, somebody saving a little bit better as we get deeper into the run, and there's a lot to pay attention to when you look at those last lap times. So just like we did earlier, and maybe this time with a little less action going on the racetrack, we're going to leave you with the sights and sounds of these NASCAR Riley Series auto parts race cars. That's going to get some used to having to say right there around the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Battle for the lead here back at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're leading you for a second with the sights and sounds. We have a swap for the point. Max Service takes it back from Daniel Bodler, who had a little bit of time out front. And now the driver who started point reclaims the point. And quickly builds just a slight gap on there. And, you're able to watch in the pylon on the left, just the lap time difference. Max Service, half a tenth quicker, then a tenth quicker. That last time, 2 tenths. That's going to make up some good gap. Staying within close proximity here of each other, though, ever since the pass was completed. And we're quickly approaching lap 50, so lap's starting to tick as we get in this green flag. We're on the 47 lane. Doyle's on pit road. No, I don't believe this is scheduled. Remember, he was running considerably off the pace there after the damage in the last incident, so that could just be enough. He's going to need some additional repair measures on that vehicle before returning to the racing surface. These guys should be going about another 20 or so laps, I believe. 5 before we see them come down back on pit lane. I think pretty easy, maybe one stop from here if you wait till lap 75. They can go maybe a lap or 2 longer just for some extra fuel in the tank in case we do end up with a green light checker towards the end. I don't think anybody will try the 2-stop. Lap time delta is just not big enough to really make that work. Ooh, the 6 you see there get loose on the bottom of the racetrack, gathers it back up. Isn't losing for time, but no pressure. So I think everything's going to kind of settle how you see it right now. I don't think we're going to see a lot of movement here. And I do believe around lap 75 to 80, we'll see everybody come down, make that last pit stop. Good to go to the end. This pack of 8, or rather, I'm looking at the driver in 5th, the 8 car, but the top 5 kind of all running in conjunction here at the front of the field. Those are going to kind of be the guys. This race is going to be decided between. Dan Park runs just a little bit behind the field here in the 7. Remember, we saw him have some early damage and really seeing residual damage on the car from what we can tell here. Unless there's something a little bit deeper than cosmetic that's causing him to be just a little bit off the pace, about consistently a few tenths slower than one of him. Especially with Max Service, who since he took the lead and since we saw the 6 get a little bit loose, he has taken off. Building a pretty decent gap now, about 10.5 quicker a lap the last couple of laps. And doing what Max Service does really well. He's kind of tiptoes around the lead and hangs out, maybe saves a little bit of something, and then we get halfway through a fuel run and he takes that lead right back, and then he's going to set his sails in the wind and build a good gap, give himself a little cushion to maybe be slightly more conservative when it comes to green flag pit stops. Kind of try to have no issues. Get it all the way to the end. Well, sights and sounds, that's what we like to do around here. We do not have a sponsor for said segment, the Crank It Up segment, if you will, but we'll leave you again with more of just the natural racing sounds, and we'll come right back when it's time for green flag pit stops here at Charlotte. Back here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, or at least the virtual version of such, we're watching the battle up front here. Tighten up between Max Service and Daniel Bodler once again. We've seen this lead come and go. We rode on board there a little bit with both drivers. You saw that the high line was in play, and here comes the 6 down low to try to get a shot at the lead. He's going to slide up the racetrack a little bit to avoid contact. Going to come off the corner on almost in a dead heat right here as we get into turn 1 to begin lap number 72. Pit stops over here. Should be any moment now. We'll see drivers come down pit lane for that last bit of service. They've currently been out on the racetrack since the last caution that happened all the way back on lap 21. So long stretch here out. They can definitely make it to the end on fuel. Bodler slides back in front of the lead, but it's like rather quickly the 81's been given the old crossover move, and we still stay lockstep as we entered lap 73 now. And we've seen the 6 a little bit here using that top line all the way up against the wall somewhere. Bodler's pretty comfortable running, and he's making it look rather good. Still maintains a slight lead over the 81. Remember though, both sides of the racetrack are different. I'm a believer in the high side. I think it looks a little bit better in 1 and 2 than it does in 3 and 4 typically. The 6 got a little bit of the fence there off of turn 4, but nothing too significant that's going to slow him down. I think with a really good 1 and 2 here on the top, he could maybe get clear of the 81. He's going to get really well. The momentum on exit. He's going to do just that. Yep, he clears the 81. So right on script, if you will. I just don't think the top side looks as good down here in 3 and 4. Bottom. Which is pretty typical here at Charlotte. You just see the 81 able to make more gains on the bottom in 3 and 4 than 6 is on the top. But it's the opposite here, turns 1 and 2. Well, these guys have been going side by side for a while. That's allowed the 88 of Kyle Johnson to pull back up. Meanwhile, we got our first taker of pit lane. He's already completed his service. He's on his way back out. That's the 8 of Bo Brady. So that's the beginning of what should be the last pit cycle of the day, barring any late yellow flag or anything like that. That's going to be these top 3 here in lockstep. We'll see. These guys stay out a few more laps. If the 8 is able to make up some pretty good time by hitting a little bit early, he was running just behind this group. So maybe some significant time to make up, but coming off the pit lane on fresh tires should give him about a second-ish advantage on lap time for at least a little bit. Definitely an opportunity to make up some time on these leaders. Real tight off turn 4. The 81 and 6 almost get together. Heads up driving there by the 88 as well to not run in the back of either one of them as he was closing on that group rather quickly. And this 3-way battle for the lead here on lap 77 proving to be a good one. Got different lines being run. We got crossovers. We got slide jobs. We got a little bit of rubbing the fence. Everything right here, and you hear this good on board here with the 6. Just hear him working the throttle off the corner. Steering a little bit back to the right on exit. A little bit loose there as he gets off the corner. So next couple laps, I expect these fellas to be down on the pit lane as well. The 7 of Dan Park, he has not come down to pit in this cycle yet either. So he'll have to come make his pit stop. The 11 of David Davis. He's already had his service as well, and everybody but the 6. Here they come. 81 on pit lane. Maybe a little aggressive on entry. It looks like he's going to get wowed down. No penalties so far. So that'll leave Daniel Bodler in the 6 and Dan Park in the 7. The only 2 drivers left to complete some pit service. Everybody else has been down pit road in this cycle. Lap 72, the 11 came down. Then the 8 came down on lap 73. And we now see the 81 and the 88 both on the pit lane. And here comes the 6. So this will complete the pit cycle on lap 79. And it'll be interesting to see where all these drivers sort out. Remember, the 8 was The 8 and the 11 were the first two down pit road. So they will likely make up a little bit on the time delta. And then see if the extra lap or two that the 6 stayed out, if that ends up costing him. The 7 of Dan Park is on the pit lane as well, so that will 100% complete the pit cycle. 6 off the pit lane, and then you see right there, they're the leaders. So there they go by the 6, the 88, the 81 right there. They pitted a lap before, now they're going to jump in front of the 6. So look at one lap, what one lap can do, and the 8's going to get around him as well. And the 11. So that's going to cost Bodler all the way back to the 5th position. However, he has decent amount better tires. The two guys right in front of him with the 8 and the 11. So I firmly believe he'll be able to surpass those two. But it's going to be a tough fight. Next 45 laps to get back up to where the 88 and 81 are running. But we'll see. Park has completed his service, rejoined the racing surface 1 lap in arrears. The 47th Lane Doyle has retired from the event, so we'll lock up 7th, 8th, and 9th in their respective positions, no longer running. And our eyes are going to kind of be here on the 6th to just see how quickly he can kind of make his way back through. I think he's going to be rather in a hurry, and for good reason. Trying to make quick work of David Davis there in the 11, and it looks like he will. So Will Brady's next up on his radar. He's got a little bit of a ways to go get him. Kyle Johnson, though, enjoying a 2-second lead out front now. And I remember him and the 88, they pitted right on top of each other. So a really good job on pit exit and just jumping out to use the good on those tires early to build himself a nice lead. He's even still gaining. And what's interesting to see, last lap times, 0.4 of a second quicker was the 80 over the 81. So I'm not sure if Max Service is trying to save a little something here. Definitely possible. You know, this is a longer run to the end, not as long as that middle run was, but a pretty good amount of distance left. So I think this is just the tale of two tapes here. I think the 88's just trying to get all he can right now while the tires are fresh. And Max Service is just trying to maybe save a little bit for later. The 6 now making quick work of the 8. So kind of as we expected, the 8 and the 11. Father was able to get by both of those drivers rather quickly. So he's going to set sail now on what's happening up front between the 81 and 88. He's got a little bit of ways to go, however, to get back up there. But as far as lap times are concerned, running a little bit faster than the 81, just a little bit slower than the 88. We'll pop up last lap times up on the screen for you like we did earlier, and you can kind of see where those differences lie. This last time by at 30.01, or a 30.39 rather, for the 8, a 30.74, and then a 30.67. So there's the 88. What I believe is going on the all send strategy, which is just go for it and build as much lead as you can, and then just try to maintain as the run gets closer to the end. 81 maybe trying to just run a more consistent lap time over the course of those last 45 to 50 laps, and then you have the 6 who's on the freshest of the rubber, just trying to make his way back up there, and in doing so is going to cost him a little bit of tire, so maybe not as effective once he gets there, but he's going to have clean air for a little while, so that'll help in this case at least. Their battle just behind these guys. The 7, Dan Parker's a lap down. He got back by both the 8 and 11. To conclude the group of 6 drivers who remain on the racing circuit. Still a pretty good lead here for the 88 as he just continues to put down some pretty high level lap times here in the low 30-second bracket. But I have a feeling over the next 5 or 6 laps we'll see that that significantly fall off in lap time as he starts to use all the good from those tires. And my initial thought is we will see the 81 and the 6 continue to creep up in lap time as we get towards the end. Maybe not as much of the 6 since he's really having to press to get back up front. All the drivers spread just over straightaway apart, straight in a corner if you will. 6 drivers still making circuits, 5 of them remain on the lead lap. We've had 2 cautions for incident tonight. The first one cost the 5 and the 22 the race as 5 of Robert Richardson got loose in the middle of the corner. And 22 kind of had nowhere to go in that incident. Also gave a little bit of damage to the 7 of Ben Park, which I think is the reason of his slower pace this evening. And then after that we saw the 8 and the 47 tangle and just a fight over the same amount of track real estate. Ended up giving significant damage to both of them. The 8 was able to get it repaired for the most part. The 47 may have had more significant damage, maybe from a little bit of suspension. Parts were compromised. Ran a half a second off the field for a few laps, and then he decided to pull it in and retire from the event as well. So looking at lap times, we've definitely seen an increase in time by about 1/10 of a second per lap from what the 88's running. He's starting to do what we just talked about, and if we look at the last lap times here on the left, you'll see the 81 now running about the same pace as him, and then the 86 is just a little bit quicker. So this is about what we were talking about when we said, hey, that full send mode on the 88 is going to catch up with them rather shortly, and I think you're seeing it right now. About the same lap time in that last time by. Behind him as well, so they're gonna have to start thinking about making up some time here if they want something to say about the end of this one. With how things appear on the racetrack right now, I'd say there's a pretty decent chance we keep it in green flag conditions. The lap down car, the 7, starting to irritate 6 a little bit. Shouldn't really cost him lap time, but 7 maybe backing off there a little bit out of respect for his fellow driver and pseudo teammate. But just ride right behind him for a while. No pressure. The 7's got nothing to gain at the moment. Would be the lucky dog recipient if we did have a caution. As I was saying leading into this conversation, I don't foresee that happening with the amount of drivers on the racetrack and the spread at which they're at. Never say never, though, with this group. We've learned that over the years for sure. Not great lap time variance in the top 3. Everybody's pretty about steady. And this time by, we'll have 30 laps remaining here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the opening race for the Chase. Our version of the playoffs for the Steel Graphics and Design series. The fall rendition. Kyle Johnson, he's led 16 laps tonight. Exclusively after this green flag pit cycle. He currently runs point max service. In second, he's led 39 laps this evening. He started on the point, led early, and then led a pretty nice chunk there in the middle portion of this race. He's been joined up front all night by Daniel Fowler's, led 31 laps this evening. He was the last car to come down on that pit cycle, so he's had to kind of come from behind and make up some time. Running some pretty decent times right now. We'll see how that progresses. Bo Brady is running back and forth, led 10 laps. He was up front earlier this evening. Got that tangle with the 47. Hasn't gotten back up there since, but still a nice top 5 run developing. And David Davis will round out the top 5. Hasn't led a lap yet tonight. Started in 8th position. Was up to P5. Was close to the involvement in that first incident, but appeared to get by nice and free and just put together a nice, smooth evening. And then the one other car on the racetrack who currently is lapped down, Mr. Van Park, started a shotgun on the field. Runs in the 6th position, 3 spots better from where he started tonight. We're looking at lap times, and I gotta say, I'm just impressed with the speed in which Kyle's been able to kind of keep up, and after seemingly running as hard as he could to open this run. Traffic here, it looks like for the 88. 11's not making this easy. Don't know if I'd recommend that move from a lapper. Kind of just ask that they hold their course and the leader's able to work around them, but nevertheless, no harm, no foul. The 88's able to work around the 11 without incident. Meanwhile, as we continue to look at last lap times, Max Service has begun to heat it up a little bit. I mean, he has almost a 5-second gap to try to close in 23 laps. That's just going to be really tough sledding. Look at the overall gain of positions from where each person started and where they currently run. Really good night for the 11 and 7, up 3 spots from where they started. That was the best night though for Kyle Johnson because he's up to a point, and that's the one that matters. We talked about a little bit over the course of the evening, the chase. 10 drivers made the chase. 8 of them are here this evening, and all their points were reset to 1,000, and so whoever accumulates the most points over these last 3 races, starting tonight, here at Charlotte, and then we'll go to Dover next week and then finish at Homestead. And the driver with the most points after those races will be the champion, and the top 5 drivers in the points get a season-ending payout headed their way. To the point now where Max Service chipping slightly away at that lead, but covering almost 4.5 seconds in 20 laps. He's gonna have to find a little something special. It's gonna be a tough go down the stretch. I'd like to thank you for joining us this evening. If you haven't already, like the stream, subscribe here to Speed Racing Network to not miss any of the action for the remainder of this season. 2 more races coming up over the next 2 weeks. Decide the champion of the Steel Graphics and Design Series, and we'll see what's next. No future plans currently on the network, but try to get some stuff together. Subscribe nevertheless to not missing the action. You can go to speedracingnetwork.com for more details on this series, more details on the organization as a whole, and then also shop Speed Racing Network merchandise. A little bit of holiday sales going on right now in that department, so if you're interested in grabbing any any pieces. We have sweatshirts, t-shirts, dry fit shirts, polo shirts, jackets, stuffed animals for the kids, stickers. There's even a customized option. You go make your own piece of merchandise. You can select a different item of clothing or a different accessory, including phone cases, magnets. Put your favorite driver's number on it in conjunction with any of the Speed Racing Network logos. Have it shipped directly to you. And there's still plenty of time to get some items shipped to the house before Christmas. About 3 weeks' time. Well, the early Christmas present tonight will be a Kyle Johnson win to his fan group. He's at an 88 out in the wind since our pit cycle on lap 78, which he came down, bolted on 4 fresh tires, right alongside the 81 Max Service, but has started to just run away from him. Max Service slightly closing the gap if we watch the time delta there on the left-hand side of the screen, but it looks like it's just not going to close fast enough. I mean, a tenth or so a lap is not going to cut it with 15 and a half laps remaining. The progress of Daniel Bodler in the 6th has also kind of come to a little bit of a halt. Saw him work past the 8 of Bo Brady and the 11 of David Davis rather quickly, and slightly closed the gap on the 81, and then kind of just mired there about 2 seconds behind the 81 ever since. In there in the distance. And now running pretty comparable lap times. Our top 3 last time by all about ran the same lap time. So no real winners. Oh, with 88 loose off the corner there. That might give up a little bit of time. He's probably more glad that he didn't tag the outside wall there. Corner exit. Gives up another tenth to Max Service, so that cuts it down to just about 4 seconds, but not enough time left without any stoppage in play, I believe, for anybody behind Kyle to close that gap. So at this point, it's up to the driver, the number 88, to put his head down. Makes 14 or now 13 solid more circuits around the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, and he will come home victorious this evening. Since we talked about Kyle Johnson in the season he's had so far, he's sat on the pole in the previous 2 races at Richmond and Rockingham. He was victorious in our race at the Milwaukee Mile back on October 8th. And has overall put together a pretty nice season. Kind of joined a little bit into the season, so only 7 starts for him. But has won 1 of them, finished top 5 in 2 of them, and has finished top 10 in 6. And so he was able to make the playoffs quite easily. And like I said, 2 poles mentioned. Average start for Kyle this year has been 6th place, and his average finish 7.7. And probably one of the best stats out there that matters. He's averaging 5 incident points a race over 6 races, so just under an incident point a race, which overall shows a sign of clean, green driving. He's led 26% of the races in which he's participated in before tonight, and that number will go way up after this evening. We currently look at the ticker, he's up to 36 led, and so he can get all the way up to 46 if he can complete the last 10 here. And so that would now put his lap led total up from 179 laps, 46 more. And make that percentage jump probably into the 30s, which is an impressive statistic considering the strength of field we have, albeit small in driver count, but not small in skill level. So being able to lead a good percentage of laps in Speed Racing Network is always a high achievement. You know, you have to consider him maybe one of the front runners, as far as favorites for the championship down the stretch as well. Last 4 finishes: 1st, 9th, 3rd, and 10th. Where you think he might have a good chance at some good work down the stretch. That 10th place finish at Rockingham last time out, he got caught up in an incident and didn't finish that event, so you exclude that one from the statistics. Pretty impressive in just winning a couple races into the season. That happened so far. Max Service's efforts have stalled out about 4 seconds in arrears. Not making up much time. Daniel Bodler, one and the same, maintaining his a little bit more, 2 and change second gap back from the 81. Bodler's back to ripping the fence once again. Something you'll see him do frequently. He's a fan of such racing action. David Davis back on the pit lane late. He was already a lap down, so not sure if it's scheduled or something that caused that, but no incident recorded on the racetrack. So, well, we started out a little choppy. We got into a nice green flag run after that, and this time by it'll be the flagman's hand hoisted over the flag stand, indicating 5 laps left to go. Only going to be 5 more clean circuits for Kyle Johnson to bring home win number 2 on the season, and honestly a great time to have that happen, considering it's chase time. The pay window's open for the championship, and he wants the biggest piece of pie. The best way to do that is to come home a champion. To go here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, or the virtual version albeit. Kyle Johnson, who's turned up the wick on the back half of this race and has been dominant since the green flag pit cycle, has put that number 88 Chevrolet in the wind, and come around and grab the white flag this time by, indicating 1 lap remaining, and that will make the race official. As he crosses the stripe, this one's official. Any flag now will end the race, and of course him coming all the way back around will be the best version of that. You have win number 2 in the season, be the points leader coming out of the race since we had the reset. He will set his eyes on Dover Motor Speedway next week. Through 3 and 4, a little lap car right behind him, but that won't bother him a bit. Kyle Johnson leads 46 laps tonight in lieu of the victory here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Max Service across the stripe in second, and Daniel Bodler will round out our podium here this evening. Well, we'll get a chance to talk to some of these drivers about their night. We'll see who sticks around for the fun here momentarily. We're going to get things pulled up to where we need them to achieve such action. Kyle Johnson celebrates, burns it down on the front stretch here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we'll see who's available here on the interview side of things momentarily as drivers return to their safety. I think we'll get a chance to talk to Mr. Max Service here first. Kyle Johnson actually is here now, so we'll get a word with him first. Joining us in the booth, winner tonight, winning his second race on the season, Mr. Kyle Johnson. Good evening. Congratulations on your win here this evening. Talk to us about your evening.
Yeah, man, that was a pretty wild race. Caution early. Usually don't get that, but just rolled with it and kind of was saving the whole time like usual. Felt pretty good on the first pit stop, or the first one was lap 20, but after the 50 lap green flag run there, we had a green flag and got back up to the lead right before and had a killer stop and came out with the lead and just decided with the last 50 laps that I wasn't playing around. I was just gonna go not as hard as I could, but I wasn't saving, that's for sure, not too much. And pulled Max by about 5 seconds and thought he'd be able to reel me in a little bit better, but the last 20 I was just kind of managing and ended up actually kind of feeling good on the last lap. Felt like I could have went another 30 laps, but yeah, it all worked out today.
Yeah, my thought in the booth watching it was, you got a really nice executed green flag pit stop, and then you put your sails in the wind, and we're just going to get all you can get and build that gap. And I kept thinking, oh, Max is going to start creeping up here. He's going to start getting a little quicker. And for a second there, we saw his lap times, start to gain a tenth and a half, and then, about the last 12 or so laps, just leveled right back off. And you were able to hold steady, but what a time to have this performance as well. We started the chase tonight, so this will make you the points leader going into the last 2 weeks. Talk to us a little bit about your expectations. We have Dover and Homestead down the stretch here.
I expect both of those tracks are pretty good for me. So hopefully, for me, the biggest thing for me is just trying to get to the end. I'll usually have a decent shot at a podium if I just make it to the end. So I'm gonna have the same plan where I'm gonna just, I'm gonna see what I can do in qualifying, and then I'm just gonna take it easy in the beginning of these races and see how they unfold, and see how I look against the rest of the competition and hammer down from there.
Hey, that sounds like a great game plan to me. Before we let you go this evening, anybody you have to thank for your efforts?
Yeah, of course, you guys for putting up the broadcast and all that, and my spotter Roman and my teammate Bo. Our other two teammates weren't here this week. I think they'll be here next week, but appreciate them too. And yeah, that's about it, man.
All right, man. You have a great evening.
Well, thanks.
Kyle Johnson, winner here tonight, driver of the number 88 Chevrolet, led 45 laps officially in his route to the victory. All right, we got second place with us, and then we'll sign it off for the night. Joining us in the booth now, second place finisher, driver of the number 81, Mr. Max Service. Max, good evening. Thought you were going to be able to run down the 88 there at the end. What more did you need to make that happen?
Right front tire, right rear tire. I don't know. I was tearing them both up all race. Tried to take care of them at the start of the run, and then we just kind of leveled off at a point, and my right rear just kind of went away. Yeah, I don't know. I don't I don't think much would have helped. He had me pretty well covered.
Yeah, he was. We saw you guys pit right together, and my initial thought was, okay, he's gonna get out there and just run him down and build a delta, and then you'll be able to catch him. But he just did a great job keeping pace and maintaining that. Well, it's a good place for a second place effort because we began the chase tonight, and this is gonna put you in the second place. Going into the last 2 weeks, we have Dover and Homestead coming up down the stretch. Talk to us a little bit about your expectations for those races.
I would say I'm not that great at Dover, and Homestead's kind of a lot like Charlotte, and I wouldn't say I'm that great there. Usually I'm pretty good at Charlotte, but little bit more used to being able to use up the right rear a little bit more here. And Homestead, I'm going to kill the thing. So we'll see going forward. Just going to try to take as many points as I can get, and we'll see how it goes. But needed something to go right after. It's been a while since I had a good finish, I think.
Yeah, that's part of racing. But before we let you go this evening, anybody you have to thank for your efforts here tonight and on a weekly basis?
Thank you to yourself for putting this on every week, the Park Bros team, and that's about it.
All right, man. Well, congrats on your second place finish. Good luck next week, and we'll catch you in Dover.
Thank you.
Driver the number 81, Max Service. Let's get up your finishing results here for this evening. We'll also kind of, well, your finishing results is actually going to be kind of easy. Those are also going to be your point standings, as everybody was reset before this race for the chase. And so Kyle Johnson will be that points leader, and he brings it home victorious tonight. Max Service, Daniel Bodler, your podium. Bo Brady rounds out the cars, finishing on the lead lap. Mr. Daniel Park will be 1 lap in arrears in 5th. David Davis in 6th. Lane Doyle 7th. Matthew Cornell 8th. Robert Richardson 9th. Matthew Cornell is not part of the chase, so you can move Robert Richardson up a spot, and there's your top 8. Joe Ruggles Jr., Troy Techmeyer, they weren't here this evening. They will round out the drivers participating in the chase, so they'll start off in a little deficit, but we will hope to be able to see them come back next week and maybe gain on that a little bit. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. We'd like to thank our viewers, plus all of our partners here at Speed Racing Network that make this happen on a weekly basis. We're gearing up for Dover next week, the penultimate race for the Steel Graphics and Designs fall season. We look forward to seeing you there in 1 week's time. Good night.